Hello and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and we're going to be doing a deep dive into the smithing system, because this is something that a lot of people have already asked for, and it makes sense because it's a new system. So, as we all know, in the game we play as Henry of Skalitz, son of a blacksmith, and in the first game it's proven that we are at least somewhat competent, but it's assumed that we're actually pretty far along in our apprenticeship given the age of the character and what we are able to do, at least in theory. Even though in the first game, the system of actually being able to forge anything did not exist. And that's something that bothered a lot of people, but they rectified that with the sequel. So now in this game, we can in fact smith things. Now it's not really a custom smithing system, which is what a lot of people, I think, very weirdly assumed it was going to be. I kind of figured from the beginning that it was going to be fairly on the rails, but a lot of people were just assuming we were going to be able to mix and match parts like you could in Bannerlord, for example. But that's not the case. The way it actually works is you find schematics, or buy them more often, or sketches as they're called in here, and once you've done that, you can then forge the sword. There's a couple exceptions to that, like ones that are quest specific, so you'll only ever be able to forge them once, and then you can't keep them because you have to give that item away in the quest, or part of the quest is making that sword for someone else, or whatever. So there are certain ones like that. Then there are other ones that you can only make once, but you can keep them, and I'll show you all of the ones that I've found so far. But basically, it's a fairly simple, straightforward, on-the-rails system. The minigame is very simple, and I'll explain that in detail when we get into the minigame, and there are skills associated with it. So we'll start off with the skills. So you'll find the skills under the skills tab, and it levels up just like all the other skills all the way up to level 30. It's craftsmanship. Now, it's important to remember with craftsmanship that this is both crafting and repair related. So when we look at it, well, for craftsmanship, it says craft has always been with man and is a showcase of his skill, activity, and ingenuity. It is also a source of joy, for few things surpass the satisfaction of one's own work. As your skill grows, it will become easier to achieve a good result in weapon sharpening or blacksmithing, and you will be able to forge more advanced weapons. You will also be able to repair higher quality items when maintaining your own equipment, and you will generally use fewer resources for repairs or laundry. You will gain experience by practicing the craft, i.e. blacksmithing, sharpening weapons, and using repair kits or washing clothes. So that's a whole big way to say that this is how you take care of your crap, and also what's been added into the game is you can make new crap. It falls under those three categories. Obviously, laundry doesn't really change much, but the higher level you are, the less soap you'll use when you're washing your armor and clothes. Someone like me finds that very convenient because I'm constantly cleaning my laundry and taking care of my guy because I hate looking dirty in cutscenes and conversations and stuff, but that one's relatively low priority. The other end of that is using repair kits to fix your weapons, sharpening your weapons at a grindstone, and of course what we're all here for today, smithing new weapons. So we'll just go through the skills first. So the first skill we have here is Hammerer. This one is not one that you can level up with you can pick with a perk point. You just get this one having spent enough time at the forge. So it says, you've spent so much time in the forge pounding on iron that you feel like the hammer weighs nothing. You'll find that skill useful even outside the forge. Attacks and blocks made with heavy weapons consume 10% less stamina. So this one doesn't have anything to do with crafting other than that's how you get it, but it gives you a stamina boost for attacking with heavy weapons and blocking them. So it's useful for combat. Razor Sharp is one that I find I use a lot. So this one, it says if you sharpen a weapon on the grindstone to a condition of 98% or higher, the weapon gains a bonus effect that increases its slashing damage to 10%, or by 10%. This effect will remain active as long as the weapon's condition stays above 75. So this is a reason why you want to sharpen your own weapons at the grindstone. Once you have the Razor Sharp perk, if you get it up high enough, you get that 10% bonus, so that's pretty sweet, and it keeps it until the weapon gets down below 75%, which takes a while, depending on the durability of the weapon. 7 League Boots is one that's very similar to a perk we had in the first game. This one says if you wear boots repaired by yourself, sprinting will cost you 25% less stamina, so that's just convenient, but again, doesn't help us with crafting. Well Fitted says armor and clothing that you repair yourself with the armorer's kit will make less noise when worn. The effect lasts until the item's quality level drops. So again, that one is great. It's similar to a perk in the first game, maybe a little bit less effective than it was in the first game, but basically if you repair your own clothing, it makes less noise. So that's very useful, especially if you're wearing a lot of plate armor and mail. Helping Hand says repairs by craftsmen will cost 20% cheaper for you, so that's it makes it cheaper to hire someone to repair your equipment. I don't find myself doing that a lot. I just get the repair kits and do it myself, just because Groschen is less easy to come by in this game than it was in the first game. Thorough Maintenance says your gear gear will be damaged 10% slower, so that one's very convenient for making sure you don't have to do it as often. Hardened steel says the weapons you forge will have excellent properties and will therefore take damage 20% slower. So weapons that you forged at any quality level will not wear down as fast, so that's very convenient for durability. Keen Eye says if you get your gear repaired by a craftsman, you'll gain a little experience in craftsmanship. So that one's useful early on in the skill tree because every time you pay someone else to repair something for you, you will then get some experience for that. So it's just convenient for leveling up. Locksmith says when picking locks, your thievery skill will count as 3 higher, so it'll be a lot easier. Plus, you can also make use of scrap iron, so you'll get an extra 1 to 3 lockpicks for each item you successfully forge. So that one's got 2 things. One of which being it just gives you a boost to your lock picking ability, which is always convenient, especially if you're going to be stealing a lot of stuff. And the other one is every time you forge a weapon, you're going to get some lockpicks. So I find myself with a ton of lockpicks in this game, because once you get your thievery high enough, you very rarely will break any lockpicks, so you don't really use that many. And every time you forge a weapon, you get 1 to 3 lockpicks. I find it's actually usually 2 or 3, so I don't think I've ever gotten just 1. Totally Legit says stolen weapons, armor, and clothing in your inventory will lose their stolen status 20% faster, so that one's very convenient for if you are stealing stuff. If you keep it in your inventory, it takes 20% less time for it to become, not marked as stolen. Bowyer says bows and crossbows that you repair yourself with the Bowyer's kit are 10% more powerful, thus your shots will fly faster or farther and have more penetration. So that one's convenient if you're doing a lot of ranged and fixing your own bows and crossbows because they'll just be more powerful. Thorough Maintenance 2 says your gear will take 20% less damage. The Martin's Secret says now you will be able to forge weapons of the 4th, i.e. the highest quality. Weapons of this quality cannot be obtained in any other way other than by forging them yourself, and their strength and effectiveness is unmatched. So that one is the way that you unlock the ability to make the highest quality weapons in the game. And then 7 League Boots 2 is just an improvement over 7 League Boots. So it says if you put on self-repaired boots, the sprint will cost you 50% less stamina, so you can sprint longer and run farther. So obviously there's a lot of reasons to level up craftsmanship other than just the ability to craft weapons. Even if you don't really love that minigame and you don't want to do that yourself, and you can get through the game without it other than the missions where you're required to craft something, but they're usually not ridiculously high level. There are a lot of useful perks in there other than just the smithing related ones. But the smithing related ones, especially Martin's Secret, which is important because it unlocks the highest quality for weapons, is great. So that's all of these skills related to smithing, other than I guess you could say stamina or agility, because you use stamina when you're smithing, so I guess there's that. But really, it's mostly just about those craftsmanship perks. The next thing to consider is that there is, in fact, a potion in the game that improves your craftsmanship. So this is one where you're going to want to know how to do some alchemy, and I have already made an alchemy video, so if you want to learn more about that and how to do it more effectively, or maybe just learn the recipe for this potion, you can see it in there. But there is the Quick Finger potion in this game, which increases your craftsmanship and thievery, so it's useful for both things. If you take it, it will increase your thievery and craftsmanship skills for a certain amount of time. The weakest variant of the potion will increase it by 2 levels for 20 minutes. The regular one will give you an increase of 4 for 20 minutes. The strong variant will give you an increase of 6 for 40 minutes. And my favorite, the 4th level, or Henry's Quick Finger Potion, will increase your thievery and craftsmanship by 8 levels for 1 hour. So you get a full real-life hour of 8 extra levels increased by this potion. So if you want to make the best quality weapons, that's great. That means that at level 22, you're basically crafting all the way at level 30. And I don't know if it stacks any higher than that, but I still like to pop it before I forge anything now, even with my crafting leveled all the way up, just because it makes me feel extra special. And so that's another thing to consider, is that alchemy can help you stack even better with craftsmanship. But going into the weapons themselves, you can see that I've got a bunch of them here in my inventory. You can smith weapons at any level, so at any quality level, at any level. So depending on your process and how good you are at the actual smithing minigame, you may be forging level 1 weapons because you might just be really bad at it. Or you can get it all the way up to this little symbol here, which is that mastery level that we unlocked with Martin's Secret skills. So you can see there are quite a few weapons in the game that you can forge. This is all of the ones I've found thus far. Actually, that's not true. I found a sketch for the Noble's hunting sword, and I've bought it and read it several times, and it says I learned it, but then I can't forge it. So maybe that's just a bug because I'm still playing on the early access build. But Hopefully that'll be fixed on launch with the day 1 patch. But you can see these stats are pretty freaking good. The dueling longsword does 183 damage. That's really high. 183 stab, 174 slash. That's an incredibly powerful weapon. The Sword of St. Valentine, another thing, very, very high. And you can see that just across the board, you know, these are some solid weapons. Horseman's Pick here doing 129. Really, really good. There's a lot of reasons why you want to be good at smithing. So now let's just get into the minigame itself. First of all, as I talked about, to get the actual sketches to make all these things, you'll find some through like quest rewards or in chests and stuff like that, especially in smithies. But the best way to reliably find them is to go to a local blacksmith or armor smith, and every single time you talk to one for the first time, check in their books tab and you'll find sketches. So you can see this one here in Grund has a sketch for the battle longsword, the broadaxe, farmer's horseshoes, knight's horseshoes, and nobleman's horseshoes. So just from this guy, you can learn how to make all 3 types of horseshoes and a decent axe and one of the best longswords in the game. So once you've bought this, you read it, and then you will know how to craft that individual thing. And they're always worth picking up because, as you can see, they're also worth quite a lot. So it's convenient for that. The other part of crafting that's important to be aware of is the materials side. So I already actually bought all of this guy's materials just recently. So you can see there's a lot of different types. You've got the real basic ones, like different types of steel. And then you have the more advanced ones, like different types of pommels and cross guards, and then things like exotic wood, copper. There are also things like cow and pig skins that you'll use for certain weapons. But that is what you will need to forge the different things. So some of these are a lot rarer and more expensive than others. But I find that throughout the game, you definitely come across quite a few of these. So I've got a lot of them in my chest. But that's all you need. You need the materials to craft with, and you need the sketch. Once you've got that, you can come to any blacksmith, anvil, and you can start smithing. And when you do, it just kicks the guy that's already using it off, and then you get to go. So there are only 4 different categories in smithing. You have swords, long swords, axes, and other, which is just horseshoe. I assume at some point in the future, we'll be getting more. I know that one of the announced DLCs for this game is a smithing one, so I'll assume that. There's also a chance, because I have not done any treasure hunts yet, that some of the more rare or valuable or possibly even unique weapon sketches are hidden in treasure maps. So I plan to do all those once I find all the treasure maps. I plan to do all of those treasure hunts at once. So it's possible that I'm missing some from that. But just going around and purchasing them, I found all of, the ones you see before you here. So there's a couple in here that, like I said, are unique. So the Riconeris Saber is one that you do for a side mission, and you need charcoal water, which, as far as I can tell, is a unique item that I haven't been able to figure out how to make again, so that one I cannot forge again. The Guild Longsword is one that requires the Broken Guild Longsword to make. The Hermit Sword is one that requires Ambrose's Broken Sword to make, and the Reforged Radzig Kobola Sword requires Radzig Kobola's Longsword to make. So there's a couple different ones that actually require a thing that, as far as I can tell, you only get your hands on once in the game. So you can't make them again. As for axes, there's only one that falls under that category, and it's the Adorned Axe. This is one where it was a kind of obscure side quest in the first region of the game, but through it was basically a treasure hunt, so that's why I believe that a lot of these are probably hidden through treasure hunts. But anyway, through that you got this, and it's actually a pretty solid weapon once you have made it, especially if you make it at master quality. For the horseshoes, it doesn't appear to matter how you make them. They will always be exactly the same quality. So I was hoping that I could forge my own nobleman's horseshoes, and they would give my horse more stamina or something, but they didn't. So with all that being said, let's just forge one, and I can kind of talk you through the process. So we'll just go ahead and make a Basilard, since I have all the materials for it in my inventory, and it's worth a decent amount. So the crafting minigame is fairly simple, and there is a tutorial early in the story, so it's possible that you've already done it. But basically, you heat up the weapon or the piece of iron, and then you hammer it into shape. There's very little variation from one weapon to another. All of the short swords are going to be very similar, all of the long swords will be similar, and all the axes will be similar. So basically, you just have to make sure you don't overheat your weapon, and you heat it evenly. So you work the bellows with Q, or whatever console you're using, and I like to move it along. So I do 3 the first time, 2 the second time, because the middle seems to be where, if I overheat, I do it the most, then 3 on the end, and then I just move up by 1 each. And I do that until we get it up to that basic straw color, so that color right there. But then you have to be quick to take it off, otherwise Henry will say, oh, I'm burning it. But this seems to give me the best results. So then once you've got it like that, you just have to hammer, and it's rhythm based. And you want to make sure you're not doing it in the same spot more than once. So you can hear Henry was whistling there while I was doing it rhythmically, basically with exactly the same time between each strike, and he stopped as soon as I hit one where it wasn't doing that. Now, you do not need to have him whistling to get the best quality. That's one thing I've definitely confirmed. You can basically go however you want as long as you're not making any mistakes. Basically, I'll go until the first time he says something, so he said it's taking a while. That means you're about halfway done, and then I'll flip it over. I don't know if that actually makes a huge difference, but it's the way that I do it. So you just go through that process, and it does not take an incredibly long amount of time. You want to make sure you're moving the blade the whole time, but not by giant amounts, because it seems to be more effective and faster if your strikes are relatively close to each other. But you never want to hit the same spot more than once in a row, because if you do, you'll cause damage to the weapon and ruin your potential on it. Once you've forged it for a little bit, like I just did there, you'll quench, and that this whole process here is automatic. So basically, he just reheats up the weapon a little bit and then quenches it, and then we find out what result we got on the weapon. And so there we go. We got master crafted quality, which shouldn't be that surprising considering I've got max levels, I took a potion, and we didn't make any mistakes in the forging process. We did not overheat the weapon, we did not hammer in the same spot more than once, we didn't let it cool down too fast, we didn't have uneven heating. So as long as you follow those basic rules and, you know, are somewhat good with the rhythm on how you hit, you're going to come up with a pretty good result for your weapons. That being said, the easiest way to tell if you're hitting well is going to be the amount of sparks that you're getting every time you hit the metal. So you'll notice your first hit or your first 2 hits usually won't generate a lot because it takes a couple hits to get into that rhythm. That's where the rhythm comes in though, because it determines based on just the game assuming how it would work, because obviously there's not a lot of wiggle room in this system. It assumes that you're hitting it with the same or roughly the same force in roughly the same way each time, which in real life for blacksmithing is how you'd want to do that. So if you're getting a lot of sparks coming off it, that's how you know visually that you're actually doing a good job. But after you forged it, especially with the razor sharp perk, then the next step is sharpening it. So not only does that make sure that you have it at maximum health going off, but you're going to get that 10% bonus if you get it up to 98% or better. So we just made the Basilard, and that's already at 100%, so we'll just take one of these other ones that I've got here. So I have a couple level 3 Basilards instead of the level 4s, and we've got some axes. So I'll just show you on, I guess, each of those. So we'll start with this one because it's at 79. So the sharpening process is simple, and again, it is visual, so you can actually see a bunch of damage on the edge of the sword. It's easier to see the one facing towards us because the lighting's a little bit better. But basically, you just pump the wheel, and the only other thing you vary is the angle at which your weapon is towards the wheel. And that's how you do it right. So you can see we have it at the shallowest angle here. So we're pumping the wheel, and you can see that we're not getting any sparks. That means we're not doing anything. You have to angle it, and you want it to be sparking a lot. So it's actually easier to do this in the dark. But basically, and if you go too far, yeah, you'll get this like powdery result. But we want that big wheel of sparks coming off of it, and then you just move up and down the blade. You can target specifically in areas where you can actually see the pitting, and we go with this. The nice thing about the razor sharp perk is it will actually tell you when you're done. Henry will say something, plus a little icon will pop up in the upper right hand corner. See? So it just popped up. So now we can check it again. So here's the other Basilard that we did. So here's that one we just sharpened. So we got it up to 100, and now it's at 121 for strength instead of 109 like it was before. So you can see that's actually a significant difference because we sharpened it ourselves. Then it's the same process for an axe, except it's just a little bit easier than it is with a sword. So again, when you're super shallow, you're not getting a result. You want to go until you're getting the most sparks that you can get, and then you just move up and down the blade, hitting all the areas where you can see damage, or if you can't see damage, then you just go from top to bottom until you get the little notification. See? So we're done with that one as well. And just because I still have another weapon that has really low health, we'll do the same thing. And there's nothing to worry about. If you go a little bit too far and you start getting your smoky result, you're not going to cause any serious damage to the weapon. You'll just have to sharpen it, because basically all you're doing with that is dulling it out. So you can tell this is a fairly easy minigame to do. It does not take a lot of practice to get good at. And once you do, you can maintain all your own weapons without having to use blacksmithing kits. And once you have the razor sharp perk, you can also get them to be a lot more effective than you can with a repair kit or by hiring someone to fix it for you. So lots of reasons to get good at this. But in a nutshell, that's smithing. So there's lots of reasons to want to smith your own weapons. Like I said, they're the best ones in the game. And if you sharpen your own weapons, you're also going to get a better result than any other way. So those are the two main reasons. But the other one is obviously making money. These weapons are worth a lot of money. You know, you pop up from the dueling longsword, that's worth 3,600 groschen. The cheapest weapon that I've forged is the work axe, 24 groschen. So not all of them are worth a lot of money, but also the work axe doesn't require very expensive materials. So you know, having something that you can smith yourself that does 183 damage and is worth 3,600 groschen, that's pretty valuable in my opinion. So that's smithing in a nutshell. I don't think there's anything else to it. Like I said, it's a fairly simple system. I'm hoping to find some more schematics, and I'm hoping that the DLC will flesh out the system a little bit more, but as of right now, that is all you need to be a Master Smith in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So hope you enjoyed this video, but that's all for today. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.